Just picking up the pieces here. Declan.
G'day, mate. How are ya?
Good. Another autumn done and dusted, but that won't stop the juggernaut that is the On the Drift podcast.
Yeah, juggernaut is a fantastic descriptive word, an adjective.
Thank you. Or would it be a noun? Is it the name of like someone with a massive suit on?
Juggernaut.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because you know those big juggernauts that are like those big soldiers from like Call of Duty?
This is a reference I do not understand.
Okay. Basically, I reckon half the audience will.
Yeah.
So in COD,
Yeah.
there is a juggernaut suit.
Oh, right. Okay.
And basically, it's like this armored suit that you can just absolutely pepper with so many bullets and they just won't go down.
Okay. So this is definitely going to be a poll on our Instagram story. So you've been bold. You said 50% of the people who listen to this podcast, and I guess therefore follow us on Instagram, are going to know what the hell this juggernaut reference is. I'm not an online gamer because I'm not a fucking verge. So that's why I wouldn't know what this juggernaut thing is in COD. But, you know, power to you.
Yeah. So, yeah, do you know what a juggernaut suit is? Yes or no?
No. Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I know you don't. We've got your numbers. So just taking a poll in the room. Yeah. You don't, I do. So that's 50% bang.
Hey, is that a representation of the broader On the Drift populace?
You have to just look at the hard numbers and say it has to be.
We'll wait and see what you guys think. But that's going to be a poll this week for sure.
Okay. But yes, I think I interrupted you, but how are things?
Mate, yeah, good. Autumn Carnival done and dusted. It was wet.
It was.
Fruitful.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you know, there was a lot of great stories. There was some fantastic races, some talent unearthed.
Lessons learned.
100%. Yeah, mate. What were your thoughts on, I guess, the weekend just gone with your girl, Fireburn? And I'm going to say your girl because there wasn't a hell of a lot of people who tipped Fireburn to win the slipper, let alone go on to win the size produce and then have a really good crack of being the first Triple Crown filly to win it for 30 years. Mate, you picked the eyes out of her on this podcast. Go back and listen. Drifters. No, serious, because if you look at the Golden Slipper replay and listen to your perception of how that race is going to play out, mate, you didn't say she was going to massively get checked. You didn't say that.
No.
Yeah.
I've been, not Nostradamus.
Yeah, you're not Nostradamus. But you did say perfect barrier draw according to Mr. Portelli. She comes up on the inside, everything opens up, and she just goes bang.
She went around one horse.
Which is exactly what happened. So, mate, yeah, I'm sure you were devastated with the result on the weekend.
I was just, for the story, I would have loved her to be a Triple Crown winner. I think she deserved it. She's the best 2-year-old we've seen since, Sebring or who was the other one? Piero. So
Seapoy?
Yeah, Seapoy. But yeah, and I think, she's definitely the best 2-year-old we've seen since Piero. And it's like, just would have liked her to tick it off. But Gary Portelli, absolute freak with these 2-year-olds, knows how to, and She Will Reign came back as a 3-year-old and did win. So I have full confidence that she can do that as well.
I think so too. I think she's a star. Her last 600 metres in that race, I was saying to you before, was the fastest of the meet. And there was 2 other mile races for older horses on the day at Randwick. So that just tells me she's an out-and-out star that was just purely beaten by track bias.
And small fields don't really adopt a lot of speed. So you can be forgiven if they don't run time in a small field, but she's still doing it in big fields, small fields. She's just so versatile.
Yeah, so versatile. And look, take nothing away from She's Extreme, but mostly Tommy Berry, because I think he rode her to perfection. He knew he was going to get a soft lead before the race went around. The rail was out bloody 2 miles at Randwick, so evidently we saw in a lot of the results on the weekend that it was going to be a leader bias for the most part.
Except for
Cascadian. And if you look at that race, an idiot, I tipped in the Congo thinking that maybe he could absorb the pressure up front and then kick on. But the only horse to do that was Stefano. I thought she was home, mate. She as soon as she burst through after running wide the entire trip, I was like, nothing's going to chase her down.
I was counting my cash. I was a very, very happy boy. And it came tumbling down by the one horse I didn't want it to ruin my fun.
Oh, Cascadian. Yeah. You're talking about Godolphin horses being so hard to chase.
They are. Like, look at this resume, right? Cascadian and Kementari win on the same day. What is going on?
Yeah. A week after Mo finishes dead last in the Queen Elizabeth and Colette finishes dead last in the Queen of the Turf.
Like, shithouse to penthouse in a week for Godolphin.
Yeah.
And it's not like they need more winners.
No, they certainly don't. And they had a couple around the grounds as well. I backed a few of their things on the weekend that won. So, yeah. Oh, look, I take nothing away from Fireburn Drifters, I think. If she does go round in spring, I don't think she will.
Well, that's the chat, but, you know, I think if she's bouncing around like she's, you know, a happy, healthy horse, why not? Especially
light prep,
maybe 1 or 2 runs, like the Haitotsu treatment or something.
What do you think she'll be? Do you think she'll be a sprinter? Do you think she'll be a sprinter miler?
It's hard to say. I think she might be a miler. Like, typically, my rule of thumb is with these 2-year-olds, if they can run over a mile, they typically run over 2,000 metres.
Yeah, I think so.
Typically.
What I learned from her on the weekend was that she could run an elite mile because of how quickly she finished off, mate, in a slowly run race.
Yeah.
If there was more pace on in that race for her to set up beautifully, oh, man, I think she's a star.
Yeah. So, by thinking of the best 2-year-olds that went on to the Cox Plate, Animo, Castelvecchio in recent years, I think she's right up to their standard as 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they head there. And you know what? She's Extreme was good, but I think Fireburn's the filly you want to be on.
I think so. I think She's Extreme will probably be competitive into her 3-year-old season, but I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't feature in another Group 1.
But we mentioned Tefane. She's been very good to us over the years. And
yeah, she's a fantastic horse, Tefane. Definitely one of yours.
Definitely one of mine. Found her in Derby Day a couple of years ago. Hadn't backed a winner all day. We were skinny in the quaddie home and she won. We had a stack on responsibly. And
I had a good day that day.
Yeah, it turned from a very terrible day for me where I was backing things each way, run 4th. On the win, they'll run 2nd. She came away, beat Pippi home very, very nicely. But hopefully she's good at stud as well. She'll probably go for, well, Sunlight went for what, 2.3 or 3 million or something last year?
Absurd, yeah.
She's a, 3 or 4 time Group 1 winner against the older horses. She'll probably go for about something similar.
Yeah, I think so. Sunlight was an out-and-out sprinter. Tefane's progeny, I would expect, would be dynamic enough depending on who she's serviced by.
It's a strange term, isn't it?
Get in there. It is a strange term.
Well, imagine if you use that term for humans.
Yeah. Tell you what, I wouldn't be tipped because my service is horrendous. Fair. I think she'd go for something like that. I reckon just get something good like a schnitzel into her or something. It could be a sprinter, could be a miler.
Consistent.
Yeah. Isn't he just?
Yeah. And you know what? She likes the wet decks. He loves the wet decks.
Loves the wets.
So, that was the main highlights for me. We turn our attention to Brisbane and somewhat South Australia, but mainly Brisbane over the next few weeks. But this podcast is going to be a little bit different. The name of it is going to be the Autumn Awards, but they're not awards per se. We're just going to touch on, some our biggest stories, lesson learns, performances, contenders, pretenders, that sort of thing. So let's just get stuck in here, mate. Let's go with the best story.
So I've got two.
Well, say one because mine's probably the other.
Okay. So I'm going to say the Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
Because...
Wasn't on my list.
Right, okay. Well, okay. So for me, there was a stack to choose from. The Queen Elizabeth, because I cannot recall seeing such a genuine weight for age race across the park than what we got. In the lead up, it was all about a certain group of horses. And then in the wash up, ended up being about a different group of horses.
And we weren't the only ones with egg on our face, I can tell you that.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But just the build up for me into that race, being able to actually see the horses in the mounting yard, being trackside, and then watching that ride by Nash Rawiller live was absolutely unbelievable, mate. We'll be talking about that race for the rest of our lives, you would assume.
Nash would have to be the boldest rider in Australia. That ride he gave Kementari on the weekend was bloody dangerous, but he got it home.
He did. Mate, we were talking about Schnitzel having a pair of nuts and servicing.
Sheesh.
Nash Rawiller.
Well, his little foal.
His progeny.
Yeah. He's riding winners already.
Cam Rawiller. Sheesh. Yeah, look, I think the Queen Elizabeth for me, mate, is the biggest story out of the autumn front and back page of the Sydney Morning Herald during the week. It was the talk of the town.
Well, horse racing was in the press for the right reasons.
100%.
Yeah. And I feel like this story as well has to be for anyone that wasn't involved in horse racing, they saw, and everyone involved, and they heard what this trainer's gone through, and he got Shelby 66 to win a Group 1 in Danny Williams. That is highway winner to Group 1 winner in 3 runs. Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you just can't deny that. And Shelby's still running around. He's running around in Melbourne this weekend.
Yeah, carrying 60 kegs. Talking about that. Yeah, unbelievable story, man. That's the biggest no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, we might never see that ever again.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of, because, we've been following horse racing since, 2015, like closely.
Yeah.
2015 or so. So not that long in the grand scheme of things, but I was listening to some people who have been like your David Gately's, your Dean Lester's, those sort of people, and they can't really pick someone who's done this in one prep. Wet tracks help, some of the elite horses running under their benchmark as well, but full credit to Danny Williams.
Hey, Group 1's a Group 1.
It is.
Unbelievable. And yeah, I think a lot of punters found him that day as well because he got pumped in.
He got crunched in.
Yeah, so good on him. Good on him. Lovely story. So yeah, my second story out of the autumn for me has to be Nature Strip winning 3 TJs. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the punting community doesn't necessarily underestimate Nature Strip, but I don't think they necessarily respect him as much as what he deserves. Because of his early career, he was pretty enigmatic and he was a little bit hard to catch. And you could even argue that he is still now. But he's currently rated the highest. He's the highest rated racehorse in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
He's undeniably a fantastic horse, NS.
Of course he is. But to your point, I think he's had... If you went and done enough digging, you'd know the exact stat I'm referring to here. But I think for Waller, there's a few things that you need to consider with NS. I think first up, I think he's only won 1 race from 10 starts or something. So first up, Waller's like, no, that's not what he's doing. Third up, I think he's virtually undefeated. Other than that Everest campaign where he was under the weather.
Yeah, so first up, he's actually got a pretty good record. It's second up that he's just like terrible, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think also to that is his starting price profile. It's basically under $3 is absolute poison. over $3, and we're talking $3 to $4 here.
Jam.
Because
you're not getting anything bigger.
No, because he's a superstar. Undefeated. So he does provide for the punters every now and then, and more often than not, I should say. But 100% he doesn't get the respect. I don't think.
I don't think he does.
Is he a better horse than Chautauqua?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. And I think he'll go to Royal Ascot and he'll spank those foreigners.
Sheesh.
Maybe with Jay Carr on board.
Love that.
Not J Mac.
Love that.
Yeah, so they're my two.
I had one more as well. Has to be Hitotsu and Kiramara David Eustace.
Oh, freakish horse.
Unbelievable.
Freakish horse. Yeah. We're talking about Shelby 66. Never seen anything like it. I've never seen this sort of training performance.
1,600 to 2,500 back-to-back preps. And he won the Australian Guineas first up. People are forgetting that.
His last 3 runs have been in Group 1s and he's won them.
They're taking him to the Japan Cup, and I'm seeing people on Twitter going he'll get lapped there. It's hang on a second. He's beating some slow horses over 2,400 metres, let's be honest. But his ceiling, he's got the highest ceiling in Australia by far.
Yeah, and he'll probably get a dry deck in Japan.
And I think which will suit him. And I think he's probably our best 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue.
It's hard to argue with that.
His versatility, turn a foot over that mile. He was legless and he still had that will to win.
I think the only question mark on him is going against the older horses. And the only one who's answered that question is Home Affairs.
Yes. With an asterisk, I'd say.
With an asterisk. You could also say Mo's loss in the Cox Plate was with an asterisk, and that was against State of Rest, who's an international Group 1 talent. So Mo can make an argument. But I think it's hard to argue with Hitotsu being our number 1 3-year-old. What a crop.
Yeah, okay. This podcast is going to go far too long. So, biggest contender. Let's get into that.
I hate to take the words out of your mouth, but our boy Marzu is a contender, mate.
He has to be.
He could have been a contender. Mate, he's a contender.
Of course he is.
Backed him every start this prep. Money spinner for the drifters. Running time. Mate, he's a Group 1 winning horse, I think.
Now, we were discussing this in the car. He is one of our favourites, possibly my favourite horse of all time, reincarnated in Redzel.
He is.
He's a Snowden trade horse.
He is.
He's now gelding and a good boy.
Yeah, very good boy.
Wears the Triple Crown Silks and he races on speed.
And on heavy decks. Redzel loved him.
Gets through the decks.
Yep.
So, Marzu, credit to you, he's trying to go from the Arrowfield to the Everest, which Classic Legend did win the Arrowfield, but I think he won the Everest not the same year, but the year after. So, there's some sort of history there. And Home Affairs won it last year.
Yep.
And, he ran okay in an Everest. So,
yep. Could we see Marzu up in Queensland?
I don't know.
Doomben 10,000, perhaps?
I'd love to see it. We'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll say g'day to the Snowdens and say we're the number 1 ticket holders. Really nice to meet you.
Could he stretch out to 1,400 metres, Stradbroke handicap?
Interesting stuff. I don't know.
I would love to see Marzu up here, but I think a big race for him in the spring, jump on drifters, apart from the Everest, obviously, would be like the Moya, 1,000 metres, Moonee Valley.
Yeah.
Follow a wild ruler type path.
Yeah, potentially.
What do you think 1,200 metres is go?
I think the Snowdens are a grand final stable. He would have won that. He would have taken that Group 1 from Shelby 66.
He would have 100%.
And we would have had our pockets full.
Yes.
So I think whatever he's aimed at, if he comes up right, all things being equal, he'll run a great race. I think and look at our sprinting ranks. They're vulnerable at 1,200 metres. There's Nature Strip, and then it falls right away. Classic Legend runs once a year.
Yeah, Les Bridge is like, I don't really give a shit about anything else.
So I think he's the next one. Like we probably thought at the start of the autumn it was Lost and Running. I think he's taken the next step over that horse.
Yeah.
And he's a 3-year-old, so we're going to see him. And a gelding, we're going to see him.
You're going to see him for 10 years. Marzu.
Look, Marzu was mine as well, but I had noted down here, Zaki's still our best weight for age horse.
Yes.
So, but it's not really a biggest contender. I think
I was thinking contenders, basically horses who haven't won a Group 1 yet.
Up and comer. Yeah.
So Marzu is the most obvious,
Has to be.
A grade, ticks so many boxes. He's ticking outside the box. I think the other one's Espiona.
Yeah.
I think she finds a dry deck in the spring and against her own sex. I think she'll be something special.
All right, I've got one for you then. Because Espiona, in all likelihood, probably goes to the Empire Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kiss on All Four Cheeks, that WA mare, goes to the exact same race, and I think she wins it.
Nah, I think Espiona beats her. Espiona's a big contender in the spring. Mark my words.
Okay. This moment will timestamp it. Timestamp that. All right, biggest pretender. I think we're going to be drinking from the same bath here.
Potentially. You go first.
Ice bath. Love to own her, but when it gets to the tippy top of Group 1 competitive racing, she falls away. She crumbles.
She runs a nice placing on occasion. She's just not a winner, mate. You can't win races with that racing pattern. You just need so much to go your way.
You do.
You need so much, too much. So if you're a dickhead drifter who
DD.
Yeah, had money on her on the weekend, you're an idiot. She's never going to win that race.
I have written down here, maybe she's a springtime mare. I think she runs a bit better in the spring.
No.
But at the hippie top level, she always finds one better.
Yeah, mate. She'll flash home and it'll look pretty. But no, she's not going to have my hard-earned cash on her because she just the way she races. It's low percentage, dumb footy. So if you're a dickhead drifter, give yourself a little whack on the chin and jiggle those balls around a little bit.
Little uppercut.
Yeah, exactly. So my biggest pretender, and I alluded to this on our Ned's chat already, and it's not a horse. It's people from Sydney.
Yes.
Yeah, bloody pretenders. And do you know why? Walk around, parade around the country on your high bloody horse. We got the best weather in Sydney. Best city in Australia. Look, could it be the best city in Australia? I'll give you that. You got a red hot crack. But you don't have the best weather.
Nowhere fucking near it.
Oh, mate, no. 10 weeks in a row of heavy decks we've had on a Saturday in Sydney, mate. 10 weeks in a row. I'm sick of it.
Have you heard of a cricket pitch? They cover it.
Oh, mate. Unbelievable. And I threw some stats out on our Ned segment. And drifters, if you don't know me well, I'll tell you something about me. I'm not a stats guy.
He's not a stats guy.
I'm not a stats guy. I'm a look and feel type of operator. Visual, perhaps. But
this is a hell of a stat.
These are great stats. So we're going to talk about Melbourne first because we're going to create an effect, right?
Yeah.
We're going to just build our way up into it.
I think it's good to compare.
Is there a drum roll effect? Because we could start like this.
Ooh. All right. No.
Okay, cool. We'll use that. Not right now. I wasn't ready. Bit premature, just like me. So let's have a look at Melbourne. Since 2007, there has been 432 Group 1 races in Melbourne.
Count them.
Of those 432 Group 1 races,
Sure.
73 have been on rain-affected decks.
Okay.
That's 17%. So you're playing on a good track the vast majority of the time.
We've been to 5 of them.
We have. Unbelievable.
So what's that? That's, about 10, not even like 7% of them ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called that.
Yeah, which is...
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway. So, drum roll, please. Sydney. 396 Group 1 races since 2007. 222 of those Group 1 races have been on heavy decks. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
That's 56%, mate, on rain-affected decks.
So 17% versus 56%.
Yes.
It's hard, cold, hard cash numbers.
Mate, how's that for some statistics? Cut that up, post it wherever you like. So basically, mate, you're looking at wet track form every time we're playing in the Autumn Carnival. And it just
100%.
kills so many good horses.
It does.
Kills so many of them. And it's a bloody shame.
It is a crying shame.
So, Sydney Siders, up yours, you're pretenders for thinking you have the best weather in the country, because clearly you don't.
Yeah. Our weather's stunning up here.
Oh, yeah.
Give us the Queen Elizabeth. the
Imagine if
championships.
the Autumn Carnival was in Brisbane and we were the big dogs. Imagine if we had the Everest. One can only hope. Yeah, so anyway,
Unbelievable.
mate, that's
I'd run it at the Gabba.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be unbelievable. Just loops around the Gabba.
It's great points you make. All right. Biggest lessons learned. Kick it off again.
Sure. Mate, speaking of wet weather, there's genuine wet track form and then there's genuine wet trackers.
Yep.
So if you're looking at a form guide, and you've mentioned this on a few podcasts, and you see a horse has run on a heavy deck 3 times and they've won once and placed twice, don't read too much into that.
No.
At all. Because like you said, that could have been when they were a 2-year-old and now they're 6. It could have been in their maiden, beating up on shitty horses out in Whoop Whoop. Or it could have been over a sprint distance and they're racing over a mile now. So just don't read too much into it. And I know it's hard, but if they've really truly performed on a heavy deck, go watch that race and see how they won it. Try and find a replay or something like that. Or go from week to week. Maybe watch the first few weeks of the Autumn Carnival and don't launch, but just get a look and a feel for how the Autumn Carnival is going to play out.
100%.
And yeah, and I tell you what, you'll have a lot more luck finding winners, because there was horses like Very Elegant, who we thought before the Autumn Carnival was a genuine heavy track specialist, just loved it. And she's got the best jockey in Australia, James McDonald, coming off her after a race saying, yeah, she just didn't enjoy the heavy deck. Mind blowing. So you can't, I don't think you can hang your hat
No.
on that form.
There's 2 horses I want to talk about here. One is VE.
Yep.
Look back at her form profile. Her best wins are not only over 2,400 and further, but her 2 best wins of her career are that Caulfield Cup
Over Tony Van Dyke, yep.
on a good 3
Yep.
and a Melbourne Cup where she wins by 4 lengths on a good 4.
Carrying 57 kilos.
I think, and the media has a lot to do with it, and there's a lot of perception. She's like, oh yeah, she's handled these good decks, racing in over middle distances against probably not our best horses. So, she's probably not beating much. And as she's getting older, she probably appreciates being on top of the ground. The other horse I want to talk about, and she's retired now, is Colette. My God. There has been so much chat by a lot of people, ourselves included, saying she's the best wet tracker in Australia.
Yeah.
You actually go through her form profile, and I learnt this the hard way after backing her. I was like, what is going on here? I think it was in that Chipping Norton or something. Just didn't look like she got through the ground.
Yeah.
And went back through her profile, and she was only racing against her own age.
Yeah.
And her own sex. So it's like, if you can't find anything that is doing it against both sexes, against the older horses, you can kind of trust that form better.
100%. And recent form is key.
100%.
Recent form. What's it done in the last 6 to 12 months? 12 months max.
Yeah, 100%. I also mentioned this on our little Ned's clip, which will be coming out on Thursday or Friday, Drifters. But no nuts required, mate. No nuts required.
It's a huge lesson learned. in some respects.
Some respects. But yeah, for 3-year-old features, you know, there is a lot of chat about, say, the Randwick Guineas and these big features like the Arrowfield. That you need a colt to win it.
Yeah.
But you didn't. Converge won it. Marzu won it. Bang. Thanks for coming. All right.
I do have one more.
Please.
Lesson learnt. And that's pressure, tempo, spot and running is everything. If you can find something, especially when the rail's out, that's going to get an easy lead. And unfortunately, she did it to Fireburn. She's extreme. Oh, they're going to be awfully hard to beat. But also the reverse. If you're seeing a lot of pressure early on in the race, there's a stack of speed early on.
Yeah.
It's not a sprint race. We saw this in the all-aged. Then your leaders are under pressure.
Yeah.
And something's just off pace is usually going to win. So you just when I'm looking at the form now, I'm just going to be mindful of that a bit more.
I have another one as well. 3-year-olds, when they race against the older horses, big tick for me. Marzu raced against Open Company first up, and he blew him away, undefeated for the rest of the prep. Benno also did something similar. And he ran a cracking race in the Derby, just found one better, found a freak.
Fangirl.
And then, the other one was fillies when they go, if they either race against the colts or the older mares, going back to their own age. Fangirl, you can kind of say that for Espiona as well now.
Yeah, I think so.
Like Hinged, you can typically back that form.
You can even look at it from last spring, mate, in Home Affairs.
Yep.
Doesn't run super well in an Everest, but then goes 100%. And blows his own sex away.
Yeah.
His own age group.
And I think that form typically holds up. All right. Before we get into a best bet for the weekend, biggest call for the spring.
Big incentivise to pick up 2 Group 1s in the spring. I reckon he's going to come back. And you say Zaki's best weight for age horse in the country. Look, I tend to agree, but I think this guy challenges him, even over a mile and 2,000 metres, incentivised. If he comes back well, which I think he will, I think it'll be awfully hard to beat over 1,600 metres and then anything above. Mate, if he's carrying the top weight in the Melbourne Cup, 58 kegs, I still think it'll be hard to beat. If he comes back, he'll pick up a couple of Group 1s in the spring.
Sheesh.
And the thing is, you're getting double-figure odds for him in most Group 1 races that are up in futures at the moment. And there's going to be a bit more competition, I think, this time around in the spring against him. Maybe some younger horses coming through, like your Mo's, like your Hitotsus, potentially. But incentivised.
I want to see the Japanese horses back out here.
I would love to.
Ligra, sure. Oh, please. Well, of all of these that we've talked about, Marzu he runs a place in the Everest. Of course he does.
Yeah, of course
he
does.
He fills the pockets.
Zoo!
Now, don't back him now because he's a stupid price.
Yeah.
He's far too short now. I think he's second favourite.
It's dumb footy. Don't back him.
Like, he'll come out. He'll start out.
At the moment, he's a few lengths off our best sprinters comfortably.
He's got so much room to move.
Yeah.
And, as we touched on, at 1,200 metres, Eduardo's vulnerable. Biggest pretender, we didn't touch on Masked Crusader, but my God, he might not be an autumn horse.
I was going to give him the biggest pot of all time on this podcast and call him a pretender, but then I remembered that he nearly won the Everest and he also has won in Group 1. So, he's got a CV that most horses would be incredibly envious of. But again, he's like an ice bath, mate. If you find him, well done to you for jumping on him at the $3 when he finally wins one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's not going to have my money on him.
To be fair, this prep, he was at that double figure odds each start.
And I think that's a fair price for him.
100%. But he's done this before in the autumn. He could come out and just be a superstar in the spring, but you need to see it. You need to see it again. And I'd rather back the nature strips, the Marzus that sit on pace, like you outlined.
Yeah.
Okay. Best time. Do you have one for this week?
I just have 2 horses that I wanted to allude to. This isn't my best bet of the day, but if you go to Randwick, race 1 starting.
Still playing in Randwick.
Super early.
I've given
given it a wide berth.
Just threw it in the bin.
Yeah.
What race?
Race 1. So number 5, Zoo Gotcha. So shout out to CS Racing.
Oh, I see him.
This is the first. This is the first one of his 2-year-olds that's coming through. So she won on debut in Canterbury on a heavy 10.
I'm just looking at this now,
mate, really comfortably. Chris Waller has such high raps of this horse. He usually, for all his young horses, gives them 2 trials before he takes them to the track. But she trialled once, and he was like, "This thing is special," and he was just like, "I want to just get her a run." Because I think she'll run really well. I'm not sure if she'll win, but I think she'll run really well. Blew him away.
She was $8 that day.
Blew him away. Jehu, baby.
If you got the nod and you did not tell me, you're in my bad books.
I got the nod. I didn't have a cent on it because I completely forgot. I got the nod a few days beforehand, and I was like, we'll definitely back it, and then didn't have a cent on. So, idiot right here. But yeah, Zoo Gotcha. Chris Waller's got huge raps on it. $3.10 with Neds at the moment. Yeah, she's a special little filly.
Okay. I actually do have a couple. I want you to go to Adelaide, of all places.
Right, okay.
Race 8. Number 1. Bacchanalia.
This thing has Marzu form.
You get 370 to find out, please. This thing was actually... This was the one horse I was actually a bit spooked by if it ran in the Ara field, because rewatch its first up run, 3 wide, no cover. It was doing it the hard way, and it stuck on pretty well. I think it's actually quite a smart horse. Godolphin, you always love to see it, but yeah, I think it'll run a nice race for you.
Brilliant. My best of the day, I'm in that territory. Caulfield, we're playing in. Race 9, number 9, Extreme Warrior.
Yeah, nice.
So before he went to the Coolmore, he was the biggest threat to home affairs for mine, because he absolutely blitzed him to start before in the Blue Sapphire Stakes, and his rating was through the roof. Didn't pull up super well after the Coolmore, so I think there was issues there. But he's resuming here after a long spell. Yeah, Jay Carr on board, Extreme Warrior, $2.15 with Neds, launch.
I remember Mick Price was talking to Mick Felgate on RSN once, and he was interviewing Mick Price when this thing was having a trial in the autumn. It only had a setback a couple of months ago, but he said, I'm just watching the end of Extreme Warrior's trial here, and he's won that by 6 lengths. So he's like, I think he's come back nicely. He just had a little bit of a setback, but they've given him the time.
Which you love to see.
Avoided the features. Let's get him back in a very winnable race.
100%. And a bit of background information, drifters, and I won't go into super detail here, but Extreme Warrior is son of Extreme Choice, and he's a super, super valuable stud prospect. So he's going to be wound up. If he wins this, we might not even see him again. So, get on him.
Yep, lovely. I have 2 more, and we're going to sunny Brisbane.
Oh, yes. Just gearing up for the winter carny.
I basically, through the autumn, I look at Melbourne and Sydney. Can toss Sydney in the bin, not even looking at it anymore. Looking at Brisbane and potentially Adelaide.
Stinky.
But my first one is race 4, number 1. Love this horse, Mokalua. Bit of a non-winner, but she has form in this race that these other horses could only dream of. Nearly ran down Barb Raider and Argentia first up. A couple of starts ago, sorry. Has form around Fangirl. Those 2 horses just got way too far back at Newcastle. Back to the mile here. Bang. Thanks for coming. 380 looks generous. And then I want you to go to race 7. My best bet of the day is number 7, Startantes. I think this horse is one of the best 3-year-olds we have for the female brigade, only a length or so off hinged. 1,100 metres is the query, but she absolutely flies at Doomben.
Oh, she does. Yeah, I think that's a great bet at the each way price, mate. And that's a cracking race.
It is. But I think I'm looking at these boys, right? Because she is against the boys. But Shakiro, the Magic Millions winner, look, he probably hasn't lived up to expectations. Ingratiating's form hasn't been the best. Alpine Edge, hit and miss. Prince of Boom is the Queensland boy, but he's running at Toowoomba and Gold Coast.
Yeah, and he's been beaten by Startontes before, if I can remember correctly.
So I think the boys are vulnerable, and I think she's the best filly in the race, so I'm happy to play.
At that price, mate, I don't blame you.
All right. But it's been fun.
It's been fun. And any feedback you've got for an episode like this, Drifters, let us know. Because we don't get into like the sort of intricacies of horse racing as much as what we typically would. So if you like that and you enjoy it,
it's a good point you make.
You know what I mean? Like obviously we talk about horse racing. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? With how we think about it and being genuine.
Hey, I know what you mean. But if you're having a punt this weekend with the good people at Ned's Drifters, make sure you do it responsibly. But we'll be back next week. Group 1 racing returns at the mighty Morfettville. Until then, we'll see you then.
I can't wait. Really can't.
Hooroo.